Let's talk about Hydra, and let's talk about it from a beginner newbie perspective. This could be helpful to later game players as well, but let's just talk about the fundamentals and the basics, because this guy learning the way, or I guess these guys, if we're counting each head as its own thing, learning the way all the skills and mechanisms interact is insane, and reading through it all is a novel. So we got our expert right here. Don't you agree, HWZ? How are you doing, my man?
I agree, man. I'm doing awesome. Thanks for having me. You are right. It is a novel. It is a series of novels.
It's crazy because at each head alone, this is like, would be an annoying boss to learn. Like if this was just one Doom Tower boss, right? You'd be like, I got to read all that. And how many heads are there now? 6, 7? It's unbelievable.
There is 6.
There's 6, so they haven't added any new ones?
No, they have not. They just swap affinities.
Gotcha. Well, we've got 6 heads, and yeah, each one is a ton. So basically, the way I want to approach this video, H-dubs, because, you know, I'm just returning to Raid. It's only been a little over 2 months. I obviously was pretty into Hydra back in the day, but so many things have changed, and so many things personally have been forgotten because like we just discussed, it's endless amounts of information you've got to retain here. And then also a lot of people that watch my channel might be newer players that just came over or other people that are returning to the game. So I think it's time we, you know, plant our feet, we buckle down, and we get into the actual fundamentals and the basics. What do you say?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. So it's great to have you here. Maybe do you want to talk about your experience with Hydra very quickly? I mean, you've been playing since before Hydra ever came out. You've obviously dominated it in a big way. People should definitely check out your channel. We'll have the link in the description in the top pin comment. What do you think about this guy? Do you like this content?
No, not anymore. No. I used to actually enjoy Hydra thoroughly, especially I want to say about 3 months before they made the big changes. I kind of caught a stride where I was able to elevate my account to get it some really, really big damage numbers out. But after the changes, no, I'm not enjoying it as much, and I'm almost borderline triggered that they gave us a Hydra fusion.
We can maybe talk about the Hydra fusion at the end. We've got Lysanthier live right now, but maybe just to put things in perspective, if people don't know, there was a crazy nerf or rework or change that happened sometime in fall 2024, right? A few months ago.
Yes.
And I think it left a lot of players, clearly yourself included, with a bad taste in their mouth. Before that, how big of numbers are we talking?
On my own account, which isn't, I won't say it's a crazy account compared to some of the ones that I work on, but, you know, finally trying to break, 800 mil damage on Nightmare, 900 mil damage on Nightmare, around those type of numbers. So,
yeah,
I was pleased with that. And, this is without having, the meta, what the meta was, and aside from Trunda, right? So multiple Chrysias, having Tashiros and things like that. I didn't have any of those champions. So being able to, crack those numbers, I was, feeling a sense of accomplishment, and it kind of just took it away.
I think a well-deserved sense of accomplishment. And I also think that's a perfect transition into the meat of the video now, because the reason you were able to dominate it so much, it all starts here, right? It's understanding just the gist of how this all works. And I think for a lot of people that maybe have soured on Hydra, you don't need to know so much more. You just talked about 800 million and 900 million. And I know people since the changes, those people that are putting $1 billion plus, 2 billion plus, they're still certainly hitting 36 or higher, 36.6. So you just want to do enough, whether you're on normal or Nightmare, it doesn't matter, to just do close-ish to the best your account can do and really get the great gear. If you're still working on it, get your Mithrala fragments, stuff like that. So how about we ground ourselves in how this all works? Because whether we like it or not, we all have to do this content every single week. Shall we just go head by head? What do you think?
Yeah, definitely. Let's do it.
All right. We've got the Head of Blight, the poison head, as I think of it. What do we got to know about this one?
This guy's going to place Poison Cloud. Is going to be annoying for you. He's going to place a lot of poison. So if you don't have, block debuffs, that could be a hindrance, or cleanse, which you should. That could, hurt you as well. But otherwise, not the end of the world when you face this guy. A lot of ways to counter him, a lot of ways to prepare for him.
Yeah, as I remember it, this is one of the heads that's one of the lesser headaches you'll have to encounter. But maybe before we move on, we could talk about, obviously, putting leech on you, that's going to lead to them healing themselves more. Putting poison on you, going to lead to you taking more damage. Can we just touch on what exactly Poison Cloud is?
Yeah, so Poison Cloud actually gives them a huge damage reduction and allows, well, you're pretty much weak hitting, right? So
Yeah.
you're weak hitting, and yeah, you won't be able to free your champs or whatever. It's a huge hindrance. So that's
Yeah.
pretty much the gist of it. There's a lot of ways around it. You can place HP burn, which will allow you to render it ineffective. So HP burn is probably the best way. It's the way that I like to counter it. You can also block buffs and then it can't place it at all. So
Yeah. Yeah, and that's actually a great moment because after we go through head by head, we'll talk about the skills you kind of want to be thinking about. Maybe we'll get into the kind of champion filters that everyone can use on their own rosters already to look for certain skills and abilities, buffs and debuffs. But yeah, each one of these heads kind of has their own solution that comes, through a certain kind of skill, a certain kind of buff, a certain kind of debuff. Now we've got the head of torment. This was always one of my least favorites. This is the fear head. What do we got to know about this guy?
this guy's he's gonna place fear on you if you touch him. It's gonna be rather annoying, to deal with. But there are ways to deal with it. Obviously, people using Shamel, you're gonna have an easy time. This guy's gonna help you to get more damage out of your comp if you're using a champion like Shamel. But otherwise, yeah, he can be a nightmare to deal with because that fear procking or not procking could be a make or break for your comp at any point in time. Whether it is you need to release a head that's been, release a champ that's been consumed, or you just need to do something that is pivotal to what your comp needs at the time. So, kind of a gamble, but I don't actually use Shamel in my comps anymore much. So I kind of gamble with it. Take it and leave my losses or what have you.
It
You
is
could
something
deal with it.
you're gonna want to think about though. Maybe bring a Veiler, as we'll discuss in a little bit, because as is the case, it seems always in in raid, the true fear is gonna proc every time you don't want it to proc. So
Yeah.
it will feel that way.
Well, I'm in a unique position. I actually just pulled my first AoE Veil champ this past week. So other
Okay.
than Rector Draft, of course, but I was in a unique position. It was either use Shamel or don't use Shamel is my only solution.
Yeah, and for anyone who doesn't know, Inquisitor Shamael, like whenever him or allies have fear placed, he's gonna ignore it himself and just spam a bunch of attacks and do a lot of nice things for you. All right, we got the Head of Mischief. This is one I remember a little less. What do we got to know about the Head of Mischief?
Head of Mischief. He's going to be stealing buffs from you. He's also going to knock back your turn meter. Can be very annoying. You can't target him unless he has Hex. So you're going to want to bring Hex into the comp. And not just for the Head of Mischief. And we'll probably talk about that when we get into debuffs and things like that. But that's pretty much the gist. This guy is also the squishiest of the heads. So the easiest to kill.
Yeah, this was you always think of when you get the opportunity, if you're putting a hex or you've got a moment to kill him, take him out, and then we'll probably discuss in a bit, but you'll have something called a mischief tank very often to kind of draw his aggro. Maybe you build someone, stack a bunch of buffs on them, and then build a bunch of resist. But we'll get into that in just a bit. Now we've got the Head of Wrath. This I remember being one of the easier heads to manage. What would you say?
Definitely, depending on your team composition and the affinity of the rotations, because there's a few things you want to pay attention to with this guy. You want to keep decreased attack on him. You want to keep block buffs on him if you can, just because he can kill you in a few ways very, very quickly with the reflect damage, with his own raw damage. So just watch out for this guy. He also places block debuffs on himself and increase attacks. So that's why you want the block buffs. But definitely a manageable head. Another one that's fairly easy to kill. Not as easy as Mischief, but fairly easy to kill.
Yeah, there's kind of a theme, like the more like crowd control-y, supporty heads are tankier and the DPS ones are squishier. It kind of mirrors the way our champions work as well. All right, that's going to be the Head of Wrath. Now we have the Head of Decay. This guy is annoying. What do you want to say about Head of Decay?
Head of Decay might be the most annoying head. Other than, it's debatable, but Head of Decay, man. When the cleanse comes through, it is it's annoying, Is simply put, you don't want them to be removing debuffs at all. Debuffs are pivotal to what you can accomplish with your comp, right? It's everything that will make or break your Hydra run. Not getting a provoke at the right time could set you back who knows how much damage. So Head of Decay, one of the heads that I hate to see spawn, actually.
Yeah, I'm glad we're on the same page about this one. I mean, it's obviously been ages for me since I cared about Hydra, but I think the Head of Decay is such a headache. Maybe we could talk about Life Barrier really quickly before we move on.
Yeah, so Life Barrier, he does place a shield on the head with the lowest HP with that single target cleanse. Yeah, it's just a shield. You need to break it. It is coded differently than shields are. So like shield breaker mastery won't help you to break it down any further or anything like that. So just a little quick tip in there people might not know about.
An important tip to know. And yeah, what I really hate is often, you know who might be devouring, or then a devour happens. So that's the head you're targeting. That's when the health gets low, and that's where the shield goes or the barrier goes. And then it's just, if you don't have the big DPS or a good solution, it could be GG if they took a great champion from you. So I've always hated that.
Exactly.
And now I believe we've got our final head here. We have the Head of Suffering. Let's talk about it.
Head of Suffering, the tankiest head, but also the head that you can get the most enemy max HP damage off of. Also going to reduce your AoE damage. So kind of annoying, but manageable. The longer you keep it around, probably the less damage you're going to be doing, because most teams are going to be AoE heavy. He also places ally protection and reflect damage for all the other heads. So block buffs coming in to help you out with that. I think HP burn is also your friend against this guy. Want to watch out for that pain link debuff, because you could kill yourself with that as well. So kind of up there. Definitely top 3 most annoying heads, I would say.
Who would you say? So we would say Suffering, we would say Decay, and then who else would you put there? Mischief?
I'd probably put Torment.
Torment over Mischief? Assuming, but so that's probably quite conditional on, do you have a good Mischief solution, right?
Exactly.
So maybe that's the perfect transition into the next part of this video. So yeah, basically, guys, let's start with Mischief, just because I brought it up, and I think it's a really great example of like a unique thing in Hydra where it's like, wow, you're completely lost, and then you know what to do, and you're a lot less lost, right? So TLDR, and then you'll go a little deeper. The Mischief is going to target the champion, your ally, with the most buffs on it, right? So if you can control that, you know who that will be, and you build enough resistance on that, he will keep focusing that one. You're going to draw all his aggro there, and he's not going to be doing that annoying steal in the turn meter drop. It's obviously a really powerful thing in Raid, which actually did not exist when I originally played, but has come in the past 2 years, is this filter button right here. So shall we maybe introduce the viewers to this and talk about how you can use it to your advantage with something like Mischief to begin?
Yeah, so Champion Filter is one of my favorite features. I'm so glad they added it. And you can simply go here. We know we need to get Hex up on this head so that we can actually start to control it and ultimately kill it. So you want to go ahead, filter by Hex, see what you have in your roster.
Yeah, I've got a lot of options here, as you can see.
The beautiful thing about Hex is we have a curse set. So you can place Hex, you can put a curse set on an AoE champ. There's a lot that, people favor, of course, your Necmos, those types of champs. Champs that are going to be AoE central, and you can get Hex up. And I think that, just on the topic of Hex, right? Not just for Mischief, but for achieving better damage overall, you want to make sure that you have Hex in your comp.
Yeah, definitely, because you're getting that. AoE is, like you said earlier, your friend in Hydra, and this is going to be consistent AoE splash damage, right?
That's correct. Exactly. You're going to be getting that splash damage. It's going to help you to whittle the heads down quicker. Right, set up maybe some for freeing champs. You might also be able to free a champ from splash damage depending on who your DPS is. So
absolutely, and that's one of the kind of debuffs you're going to be looking for. Similarly, you might be looking for a certain kind of buffs. Obviously, in general, there's a lot of buffs you're going to want. You want to put out more damage. Increase attack is cool. Increase crit damage is cool. You want to go a lot faster than these heads to deal with it's impossible to speed tune a lot of this stuff, at least early on. So you just want to be a lot speedier than they are. But a cool thing you can look out for is people that self-buff, right? Especially if we're talking about the Head of Mischief. So yes, maybe you have, your Arbiter's putting out AoE increased attack and your Duchess is putting out AoE increased speed, but that's just raising the floor. Everyone's getting those buffs. But if you have someone additionally who's self-buffing with increased crit damage, now that's the one, right? So that's something people could look for. So don't be afraid to click around here and see what kind of options you have. We could go over here to my wouldn't be the best example of Mischief Tank, but just to show what the skill could look like, we go to Diana Gloompiercer, and you can see here she is self-buffing. She's attacking all enemies, but this is not all allies. This is on this champion, right? And she can then we get the Veil on all allies, but these are 2 unique buffs to her. So as long as they're not also getting stacked AoE, these are things you could look at. So if there's someone who maybe does an ally protect, but then also puts increased defense and a continuous heal on themselves, right? Something like that.
Another champ that you have that is a decent one is Molly, actually. She was a Mischief Tank for me for a while because she places the reflect damage on herself when she does the provoke. So she'll always have, one extra buff than the team has.
That's actually, that's where I should have started, because that's who I use currently, even though I have not put a single ounce of thought into my Hydra yet. But coming out of this video, I will, because I'm already learning and remembering a ton. But yeah, here's a good example, right? She's support. She's got pretty dang nice base tanky stats with the HP and defense, especially as a legendary. She's someone you're going to want to bring, as we're going to talk about. Maybe that'll be the next thing we talk about, with an amazing provoke, incredibly underrated provoke, which can even go for 2 turns AoE, coin flip on that. But it's also coming with the self buff. So, if I'm bringing Hotatsu, who's putting increased defense and continuous heal on everyone, right? And I'm bringing Tagoar, who's putting shields and attack speed on everyone. Even if everything's perfect, everyone has four buffs. That is what I'm doing, by the way. But then you bring Molly, now she has 5 buffs. So now this is where the aggro is going from the Mischief Tank. So yeah, it's really important that you make those considerations. It might seem like higher level stuff, but actually it isn't. The second you solve this one time, you can lean on it forever before you have to get into more nuanced things. So maybe what we could do is, should we just think head by head and just shout out a couple things to be looking for? Maybe that's the way we can approach. We kind of introduce the filters so people definitely check out these buffs and debuffs, see what your account has. You can also learn a lot about your account. I knew I didn't have anyone I used that has Hex, but now I know I don't have anyone that has Hex. Maybe if I include the Vault, let's see. Okay, so I have just Urticata, who actually isn't so awful a choice, but not rushing to build her. But yeah, definitely make use of these tools. So yeah, we started off with Blight. So for Blight, they're putting out the poisons, right? So we'd want some kind of cleanse, some kind of block debuffs. What are we thinking?
I would go with cleanse over block debuffs, just because if you're not taking advantage of protection set, the least amount of debuffs you can have and still be effective, the better, because there's always a chance that your buffs get stolen, and block debuffs is probably top 3 most annoying buffs to get stolen, because once the Mischief gets it and spreads it, now you got another problem on your hands.
That's actually an amazing point, right? Because that just to bring it back to the Mischief Tank, it's like you can have every buff solution, but if the Mischief goes to steal from, let's say your Alice or someone you're bringing for DPS that doesn't have sky high resistance, whereas you might end up, I haven't done it, but you might build your Molly for, 400 resistance or something like that, or 300, depending on what level you're at. Then all of a sudden they consistently get block debuffs and you're just screwed. So that's actually a great point. That cleanse will be a lot more powerful, because they could always RNG steal it, and that would suck.
Yeah, so cleanse for sure. Definitely want to make sure you have a cleanse or some solution for those poisons that are going to be getting put out, because they will eat away at your HP very quickly. Very, very quickly. You'd be surprised. In addition to that, though, the other thing that you're going to need for Blight, you're going to need either block buffs or someone who can place HP burn. An ideal situation would be someone who could place HP burn on top of the poison cloud.
So what do you mean about on top of the poison cloud?
There are a few chances. So as you know, like we mentioned earlier, poison cloud is going to make you do weak hits, so you can't land debuffs. There are a few champions in the game that will be able to actually land HP burn with weak hitting.
That's a great point. And also you can lean into a champion maybe like Geomancer, who's obviously going to be great for all the spots that places. So instead of hitting, you can't weak hit if there's no hit, right? So as good as his A3 is, he's not actually, there's no contact. So it's a full place. So looking for things like that, great shout, right? I really like that
Yep.
suggestion. Okay, perfect. So I think that's like a nice gist on Blight. Let's go and talk about Torment next.
Yeah, so Torment, our friend, Mr. Fearhead. Obviously, Inquisitor Shamel, the best solution probably, and then Veil, right? But there are a plethora of accessible AoE Veil options.
For anyone that doesn't know, whenever any ally is receiving fear or true fear from an enemy, he's just going to instantly remove it. He's going to do some turn meter fill, and then he can start attacking. It's just he's a cheat code for the Head of Torment. But a lot of people might not have him. Be sure to check if you have any champions putting out Veil, or even better, Perfect Veil. And this will basically allow if you're that champion or any ally is wearing that buff when they attack the head, he does not instantly place the true fear. Anything else very important about the Torment head?
If you don't have Shamel and you don't have Perfect Veil, another alternative you can do, I know this was a popular one, was to take the Chainbreaker Blessing. A lot of people were using it on Geomancer, when we were really getting our comps together. Chainbreaker Blessing on Geo to just remove that fear at the start of the turn helps out as well.
Yeah, so like on your like more important champions, so for a lot of people, you're going to lean heavily into Geomancer for DPS. This can give you a pretty solid chance to get those crowd control effects off. So in this case, the True Fear. I really like that. That's something I never would have thought of off the top of my head myself.
Only importantly for Geo because he has an AoE A1, so he's going to be fearing himself.
That's a great point. Yeah. Because other ones, especially with Hydra, especially as you're progressing and it's only once a week, you're probably going to do a lot of sucking it up and manualing. You kind of don't have a choice. But someone like Geomancer, if things are on cooldown, he has to AoE, which means he has to hit that at Torment. So your cans are kind of tied. Whereas, Alice, if I wanted her A1 a single target. So you can just make sure, okay, let's not hit the Head of Torment. It's not like the Head of Torment provokes you. So really good point. Shall we move on to, we covered Mischief. No, we didn't fully cover Mischief, right?
Yeah, we didn't fully. We kind of briefly talked about Hex, but we didn't talk about any of the other like kind of nuances with the head.
We talked about Hex, we talked about the tanking, but there's one other thing, right?
When you kill it, well, it steals your buffs for one, right? So protected buffs is a way to help out with that. But I know a lot of you guys are just starting out. You're probably not going to be having full protection sets on people.
That's also kind of a tricky thing because you're getting your protection sets from the thing you need protection sets for.
Right. So, over time, yes, protection will help you out there as well as give you a damage boost. So you want to be taking advantage of that. But, like we said before, make sure you get the Hex up. Try to get that head down as quickly as possible. And also pay attention to the timing of when you kill the head. Because when you do kill the Head of Mischief, it resets the turn meters of all the other heads. And you don't necessarily want to do that just after some have spawned while they have the Mark of the Hydra on them, because then you won't be able to do damage for an extra turn. So you kind of want to wait until that falls off to make sure you kill him. You could time that at different points to actually strategically help you out, especially if a champion's been consumed. That's a great time to kill Mischief, so you kind of get some extra time to get that champ out.
Yeah, that's an excellent tip. All right, so let's talk about Wrath next. I think that's what we have next on our list. So what do we need to know?
Yeah, so Wrath, protect yourself, right? A shield is your best friend. A cleanse, also good to overlap here, right? Because he's going to be trying to provoke you. He's going to have block debuffs up and reflect damage. You want to make sure that doesn't happen. So block buffs is your friend. Decrease attack is your friend as well, as a cleanse. That's pretty much the gist of it. When it comes to this guy, has the vengeance counter. Try to get him down before that happens, but there's different ways to kind of take advantage of that. I know Geomancer comps kind of thrive off of you getting that vengeance counter hit because you can kind of make him kill himself. If you place that HP burn and just keep targeting Head of Wrath, you can actually allow the Hydra heads to kill themselves. So that's a pretty effective strat as well. But that's pretty much it with Head of Wrath.
Yeah. I guess two things I'll quickly say about it is, as you kind of described, a bit straightforward. There's just like certain buffs to look for, certain debuffs. However, you can see how it synergizes with all the other heads, because if you didn't figure out your mischief tank well, now all of a sudden maybe they have block debuffs if that's something you were bringing, and then the whole thing falls apart. And now the Head of Wrath actually sucks instead of being one of the easier things to solve. The other thing I want to talk about, just because I should have mentioned it earlier, you mentioned block buffs again. So here we go with Ugo, for example. I think this is someone a lot of people would have. There's obviously many options for this, but this is a good one because you're getting the decreased defense. But like for me, this is what I'm planning. We'll see if it's this week or maybe a week or two from now. Ugo could be a great candidate for someone struggling with Hex. Maybe put her in a curse set, right? So now you're kind of giving her one of the things you were missing. So you can always look for opportunities like that as well. I know we're going to talk about provoke in a second. Maybe we should transition into that now with the next head. But that's something else you could do, right? You could put someone in a taunting set.
Yeah, so Head of Decay, you got to keep it provoked. And while we're on the topic of Yugo, I actually have a Yugo in provoke set.
Okay, cool.
So I'm still using Yugo in Hydra. Still S tier for Hydra. I don't see any reason to replace her in the comp that I have her in. But for the Head of Decay, yes, you're gonna need to keep that head provoked. Otherwise, it's going to become nightmarish for you, and things will just start to fall apart.
This thing doesn't stay up. I'm sorry. I'm trying to show people. There you go. Provoke set. There you go. Please.
Yeah, so you can get provoke sets, of course, to help you out. That's primarily what I lean towards, because if you don't have champions, guys, when you're using the filters, if you don't have champions that can bring you multiple things, and I lean more on like 2 to 3 things that can contribute to the comp. Using a provoke set or using a curse set to bring in Hex is going to be largely more beneficial than just putting in a champ that can do one of those things. It's going to take away from your comp completely. So being able to put that set on a champ is largely more beneficial, because you're taking up an entire spot in that 6-man slot to bring one thing. You don't want to do that.
I think I'm so happy you brought that up, because, you know, you're used to using 5 champions in raid. So you're like, oh, I get 6. Now I have so many. The amount of things you need to bring into this fight, you're going to be like, why can't I bring 8? That's how it always felt to me.
Exactly.
So you need, I always say it's people that wear many hats. You know, you need people doing, like you said, at least 2 jobs, and ideally maybe 3, maybe 4. So if you've got someone, Ugo, again, a cool example. She's bringing nice defense break. She's obviously bringing the ever important block buffs. But yeah, put her in the Hex if you need Hex, right? Put her in the provoke if you need the provoke. This can kind of unlock a lot of stuff. You know, even someone like Molly, she's really, really good for Hydra because her provoke's crazy, but it's not just because her provoke's crazy. She's also can function as a great mischief tank, and then she also can help your whole team cycle. Look at that. When you're hit by a boss, 25% turn meter fill every time she's hit. Everything the Hydra's doing basically is AoE, aside from a couple things. This is kind of huge. And a fourth thing, right? And then she can be a nice little reviver too. This could throw things off though with the extra buffs. But still, you can see you're looking for people doing a lot of things. So it is pretty key. You know, you shouldn't be bringing someone like, oh, just because they bring Hex or just because they can do a provoke. But you know, let me do another quick shout out, and then we'll move on to the next head. Oh, here he is, Husk, right? Husk obviously going to be a nice option for provoke. Put him in a provoke set, becomes even a nicer option, but that's still only one thing. But hey, now it's 2 things because it's a big AoE enemy max HP. So this is an example where, especially with the DPS, maybe you're a little more lenient, but even still, you want them doing more than just the one thing. An example for me, and I think a lot of early game players that came up during the Alice event and the Alice in Wonderland stuff is, yes, Alice is just DPS, but for the vast majority of us, she is the only one with a 5-star soul and brimstone, which is going to be so good for Hydra, right? So now all of a sudden Alice is doing 2 things: normal DPS, and then she's your brimstone champion. So I'm so happy you mentioned that. It's such a good tip. I hope people make it to this point in the video. And we have only one head remaining, and that is the Head of Suffering, the tankiest of the heads. Let's talk about it.
Yes. So Suffering is pretty straightforward. Block the buffs, guys, because he's going to be placing ally protection on everyone. He's going to be placing reflect damage. You go again, MVP, right? Block the buffs. So Wukong was the promo code. I know a lot of you guys probably got him. He's also great in Hydra, guys. He can place that block buffs for you as well and strip the buff. So Another option for you is bringing in someone who can strip, do damage. Wukong, great option for that. But that's pretty much it. Get this guy out of the rotation so you can actually get some AoE damage up as well. But otherwise, pretty straightforward there as well. You do want to get that pain link debuff that he places off of you because you will kill yourself. But otherwise, manageable. Just tanky as heck and hard to kill.
So yeah, just to bring it home, I think the final thing we didn't explicitly talk about, I mentioned it briefly with Husk, is if you have enemy max HP and especially on an AoE. So if you're super lucky to have an Acrizia or a Newt or something, congrats. But otherwise, a great budget option would be a Husk. This can be really nice for at least one of your teams. And then we talked about HP burn being a solution to Blight, but it can also just be a great solution to DPS. So especially if you have AoE HP burn, even if it's on someone that's like not as desirable, for me, I believe the only option would be Ultimate Gaelic. It's still something, especially as you start building out multiple teams. So just keep all this in mind. And one final thing to say, but before I do, any final thoughts here? Thank you so much for all these expertise.
Oh yeah, man. I love talking Hydra strategy. Last thing I guess I'll leave you guys with is just some of my key debuffs and buffs like for success that we didn't really get to mention. One that is paramount, decrease speed. You gotta have decrease speed.
We absolutely need to mention that.
It's an absolute game changer. Decrease speed, AoE if you can, or try to spread it if you have single target, whatever you need to do, get some decreased speed out. All right, it's gonna be a game changer for you. Right, we mentioned HP burn and the implications that brings along, but trust me, it goes a long way. I actually did a video with a full HP burn team. There was no traditional DPS, just all HP burn champions on Nightmare difficulty. It's usable, guys. HP burn can do a lot for you in there. As far as buffs, along with decreased speed, place that increased speed. That increased speed is going to help you. You want to be taking as many turns as possible. You want to get on at least a 2-3 to 1 ratio with the boss so that you can be cycling, right? This is very important to having success in Hydra and Shields. Shields make a huge difference. And that's what I'll leave you guys with. I could go through each one and tell you why each one is great and why you should have 10 buffs on your team and 10 debuffs and what they will do for you. But increase speed, decrease speed, shields for you guys starting out, I think that is going to be a game changer, and some HP burn.
Yeah, I love it. And guys, people, if you enjoyed this video and you'd be down H-dubs, maybe in 2 or 3 months, we do a check back in and we really do like that mid game to maybe trying to push towards late game, actually thinking a little further into it.
Yeah, I'm down, man.
Yeah, I have two really quick things to finish with. I want you to encourage you guys to use these filters. Use it on your own roster. Quick tip, if you click this means and. This doesn't mean or. So you see it showing no one. That's because I don't have anyone on my account that does small version and big version increase speed, right? So if you want big version, click this. If you want small version, click this. Also, always click on the champions and see how they're doing it. Because you see, I actually was surprised. I clicked on increase speed. I'm like, Ugo has increased speed. She has it because of when her passive triggers, right? It's like a very niche, weird thing, and this rarely triggers. And if this is triggering in Hydra, it might be too late for your whole team anyway. So actually go and click and be like, oh, so that Ugo's not bringing increased speed for me here. Tagoar definitely is, right? 3-turn cooldown, big version. So be sure to do that. The final thing I want to do, if you don't mind me plugging a little bit, is I do have a new download link in Raid Shadow Legends, and I think you're really going to like it. Maybe you can give your opinion quickly at the end. However, there's one thing we have to mention. I did choose to take out Ugo. I feel like for early game progression, Ugo is awesome, but she has fallen a little short compared to the other option I decided to replace her with. But that being said, having gone through Hydra now, I'm a little bit regretting it because she's such a end game queen there. So maybe with my next month's code, maybe we'll do a little switch back. But I think you're still gonna like the link and you'll love the other 3. So at download, you're gonna get Elenarl at level 0 or level 1 the second you start playing the game. While we're in the high elves, let's just go to level 20 already. This is who I swapped out for Ugo. We've got Tayrel. I just think Tayrel is bringing the tankiness. He's bringing a very consistent decrease attack for bosses on the A1. And then I think this 2-turn stun with the Terminator drop is really underrated. So I just think for progression, yes, Ugo will live on your account longer, but I just know these first 2 months I just played, I would have done more with Tayrel than Ugo, especially for people that pick up Sun Wukong with the promo code. Now at level 10, this is the one thing from my link I didn't change at all, because how could I? He is the GOAT, if you will. He's the Tagoat. We got Tagoar over here. I'm obsessed with this guy. He's the MVP of my account. Huge shields and a 5-turn AoE revive. Big version increased speed with a nice chunky heal, and then even a little increased defense. Great aura. And talk about Hydra and boss content. Reduced incoming damage to all allies when their health is low. Just love him. And then here's a great one. Maybe for other bosses more than Hydra, unless you have debuff spread. But if you pair her with debuff spread, you're kind of getting everything you'd ever want. We do have Fayne, who I'm so happy to have on the link. So it's kind of a squishy one. You can see I don't have her on my account because I've got the old link, but you're getting everything here. Little turn meter steal, but then 2 poisons decrease attack, and then both big version decrease defense and weaken. What do you think? We got a big link? We got a good one?
Dude, that's awesome. I feel like it's very well rounded. You get something that's going to help you out pretty much everywhere at the start of the game, right? So Fayne could come in, easily help you out in Clan Boss. Elenaro come in, easily help you out in Dragon. We got Tagoar is going to come in and be MVP in a lot of places for
everything.
you.
At the beginning, he'll be in every team for every person.
Yeah, pretty much everything. And Tayrel, you know, he's an OG epic that was like dominant. You know, about 2-3, I want to say about 3 years ago. Let's go 3 years back. This guy was dominating. He was in a ton of teams, right? Just helping people progress a ton of areas. So I really like it. I think you got some well-balanced picks here.
Appreciate it. Yeah, Polarium gave me a really refined list, so I only have so many options. Basically, my old link was the same as this one, but it was instead of Elenaro, it was Corrado. Instead of Tayrel, it was Ugo. Instead of Fayne, it was Rector. I think that was more of the end game link or the late game link. Like, Corrado will be more valuable, I think, to Elenaro for an older account. And certainly Rector and Ugo will be huge for kind of later progression stuff in Hydra. But I'm just thinking if you want to dominate the first 2 or 3 months, I really think it's the best link possible. So thank you so much for sharing your thoughts, HWZ, and even thank you for the endless pieces of expert advice on Hydra. I'm not joking. I either learned or because of you remembered so many things right now. My Hydra score is going to skyrocket. Maybe I'll even stream that this week. And any final thoughts about Hydra before we say goodbye to these people?
Do your due diligence, guys. Use the filters, especially those of you who have, you know, maybe you've been playing for a bit or you've started to invest some time into your account. You might have some hidden gems in there, champions you might have not thought to use those filters, see what they can provide to your comps based on the tips that we gave, and you'll have some success. And give yourself some grace, you know, take your time with it. Don't feel like you have to do all of the damage in the world. Try to get that top chest, try to get all your Mithrala frags so you can collect her and get your gear, guys.
2 quick things you talked about, and that's what I wanted to and that's what I wanted to leave people with. Do your due diligence and also do it. You know, even if you're only getting the lowest chest on normal, you can do this on full auto once you've built a couple champions to 60. Start stacking those Mithrala frags and getting some nice free special gear. And then that transitions into the second thing. Please do it because you can start getting Mithrala frags. She is stupidly strong and even stupidly strong for Hydra as well as like all content in this game. And she is one of the best free legendaries you can possibly get throughout 5 years playing Raid. And she might be the best, fastest one you can get. If you stay on top of your Hydra, you will easily get her within a year, if not closer to like 6, 7, 8 months. So please do us a favor and stay on top of it. Thank you so much, H-Dubs. As you guys can tell, this guy knows his stuff in an incredible way, and he's got a catalog of years worth of videos. So go check out his channel. I will have the link in the description and the top pinned comment, especially if you want to see more advanced Hydra stuff. I've seen ridiculous videos there. I really hope this helped you guys. I'll try to stream a little Hydra this week. Thank you again, sir. Share with your mother, and we'll see you real soon. Bye.
Fastidious.